Hey guys and girls, summertime is upon us. It's hot, it's muggy, it's going to be 100 degrees. We got a little bit of breeze which helps, but I want to try to show you how to find and catch crappie in really hot summertime weather. It's not nearly as easy as it is early in the year and late in the year. Going to be using an old stump jumper with a skirted Lucky Strike Lucky Minnow on there. See what we can do. There's a fish. See if this is a crappie. Felt like a crappie when he bit. One of the things that you want to look for is any type of concrete you can find. Is that a crappie or a bass? Oh, it's a crappie. Any kind of concrete. Now, I've got some concrete right there that's got a valve on it. Oh, and that's a pretty nice crappie right there. Boy, and he ate that thing too, didn't he? You can find concrete in a lot of places. You can find ripraps that have bridges on them. Concrete bridge pilings are really, really good to fish. Should have hit my spot lock. I'm drifting away from my spot. You find around dams and spillways. Dams are good to fish. Some dams you can fish right up to, some you can't. Any kind of concrete is a great place to look for crappie during the summertime. And of course, now bass get on it too, but bridge pilings are one of the places where you can really find a lot of fish. I got a bite there and missed it. Went slack again. It might be a bass there. No, it's a crappie again. Hit spot lock, Jimmy. Hit spot lock. Ooh, looky there. Another nice crappie. Now, one of the things about the crappie is just they're still crappie. So anytime you find them, any time of the year, you're apt to find a whole bunch of them in one spot. They are school fish. You might only find 3 or 4 in a spot. We're going to fish several different type places, and we won't catch them in all the places that we're going to look. Crappie saying, "Thank you, sir. I thought I was a fillet." But we're going to try several different types of places to catch them. This is an excellent place right here. And I see some more structure right over there that's a man-made structure. And we'll check it out too a little bit. This is out deeper. And of course, summertime, probably your deeper structure is going to be the structure that you look for. Boy, they're stacked. That's another one. That's another crappie too. Yeah, buddy. I'm using black and chartreuse. I told you before, I like black and chartreuse. It's a color that they'll bite. Plus, the fact that you catch a lot of, it's a good bass fishing color. You catch a lot of bass on it. Look at that crappie go. Pretty nice crappie right there. Look at him go. Oh, come here, baby. That's a big one right there. Ooh, that's a big crappie. Look at the size of that monster, will you? That is a big girl, yeah. The little bait I'm using, this is an old stump jumper. You can get it Bass Pro. And I've got a Lucky Minnow, a skirted Lucky Minnow on the back of it. And this bait, you see, it's got a little spot there that allows it to wiggle. It's got a couple of them, one right before the tail, and then one right before that, back up in front of that. So it gives this thing a lot of good side-by-side action. You can turn it and fish it the other way, and it's going up and down or sideways. It's an incredibly great crappie fishing plastic. Water's about 18 or 20 foot deep here where I'm fishing. That generally is a good depth, usually around 15 to 20 feet for summertime crappie. Depending on your lake and the clarity of the water, sometimes you catch them down a lot deeper, but usually they're not all that deep. They're not really up shallow like they are in the springtime, but they're down about 15 or 20 feet, and boy, you see he ate that little stump jumper. I mean, he ate it. Look at that. Look at that. Golly. Holy moly. I mean, it is gone. Oh, look where that bait is in that fish's mouth. My goodness sakes alive. I don't know if I can even get it out. Holy cow. There we go. Not bleeding or anything. He's in good shape. Whew. God, ever cast. I'm telling you what, this is what I was hoping for. This is what I was hoping for, is to find a spot. One of the things about it, they're usually ganged up. And if you can find isolated cover, that's the other thing. This is isolated. There's a couple pieces of structure right here, and that's about it. It's all bass break off over there. But you can see that, God, they're eating that little bait. That's a lot smaller one than I've been catching, but that's still big enough to eat. That's probably a 10 or 11 inch crappie right there, which is plenty big enough to eat. I'm throwing further away from my structure all the time. There's a huge bunch of fish right there. I mean, a huge bunch of fish. I say there is. There's at least 4 or 5 there. I know that for a fact. That might be a bass. That might be a bass right there. I was reeling that bait in. I got past my structure and was just reeling it in. That's probably a bass. You're going to catch quite a few bass with these little baits too. Particularly small bass. You'll catch a lot of small ones. They're fun to catch, particularly if you're using a light action rod. I'm using a medium action rod right now. I've got one that's medium light. Little bitty guy. There's another one. That was out here a pretty good ways away from the structure. Is that another bass? No, it's a crappie. This is sweet. So sweet. I'm telling you. This is sweet. I'm going to go show you some other places to look, but I can't hardly leave this spot. We can always come back and fish it later, though. See one more little piece of structure over there. That's some type of a overflow system, generating system, or something. Really, everywhere you go, you can find concrete. When you find some concrete, you're normally going to find crappie in the summertime. Now, they'll be there other times of year too, but bridge pilings, of course, are made out of concrete. Some of them are made out of wood, but most of them are made out of concrete these days. And there's usually always crappie on them. And you know, you might have a bridge that's got 3 or 4 bridge pilings. You might have one that's got 20 or 30, and they might only be on 1 or 2. But if you find the ones they'll be on, next time you go back, they'll probably be on those same ones. Golly, that crappie's mean as all get out. He is mean. He's not very big either. Pretty decent size. Oh, yeah, not bad. Every crappie I've caught have been eating size this morning. Now, one of the things about that Lucky Minnow, it's a little bit larger piece of plastic than some of the baits you fish with. You can see that's probably a couple of inches long there, 1.75 inches, something like that. But a little bit bigger piece of plastic will allow you to catch bigger fish. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And when you get into the warmer water, and our water temperature out here right now is 82, 83 degrees, pretty warm. You get into warmer water, you can use larger size baits for crappie, and you'll catch larger crappie. When the winter time, when it's real cold, that's when you use a lot smaller one. Oh, missed one. I think this is the smallest one I've caught. That's the first one I've caught that's not really a keeper. First one. Oh, I thought I'd get rid of you there. Wasn't quite that easy. Oh, Jimmy. The bass is the crappie sitting on my head. That crappie might be 10 inches long, though. You know, he might be 10 inches long. Where they have limits, most of the places 10 inches. Where they have size limits, some places don't have size limits, but most of the places where we have size limits here in Oklahoma, it's 10 inches. Boy, I'm telling you, they're stacked in there. I don't know how many crappie are there, but there's a lot of them. I would have all I need to eat. I'd have a couple, 2 or 3 meals already caught, as a matter of fact, because it's like every single solitary throw. Okay, let's look at some man-made structure there. Let's move out and see if we can find some ditches or channels, some places where there might be a little bit of a creek channel running through, or maybe a drain coming out of a pocket or a cove, and see if we can locate that. Now, if you got a live scope like I've got, where you can look out in front of your boat, you can actually find those ditches, and you can actually just drive down them until you see a bunch of crappie, stop and fish them. But if you don't have that, you can fish those and just that is a school of little tiny crappie out there, right where that drops off. And those, I mean, tiny, tiny, tiny crappie. They're right where the drop off, but they're up a lot shallower than those bigger ones were out there. But it's a whole school of little bitty crappie like that are probably last year's spawn. That's all the bigger they are. Crappie really don't grow nearly as fast as as bass. Of course, they don't get as large as bass, but it takes them a little bit longer to get a decent size, to get up to that 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-inch size that we're looking to try to catch. It takes a crappie a little while to get that big. I'm off out here in about 18, 19 foot of water now, kind of looking around a little bit and just fishing as I go down. And one of the reasons I moved out here in this kind of water is that I was catching those fish in about 18 foot deep. They wasn't quite on the bottom, but you kind of duplicate where you caught them before and try to find some fish out here in the channel. You might find a wad of them out here somewhere in the channel. I'm up in 15 foot water now, so all I'm gonna do is just move out till I get in that 18 foot water and stay in it, pan back around, look, see what I can find. There he is. That'll be a bass. I saw him out there on my scope before he hit. I think that's gonna be a bass. Might be a big old crappie. That's a bass. I thought that's what that was. I saw him out there on my scope. Got out here in 19 foot of water, and I saw there's 2 or 3 of them. They weren't big ones, but they're pretty nice on the ultralight. Thank you very much. Perfect. Ha! 2-pounder. There we go. I think it's gonna be a bass. Get my spot lock and stop right here. Yeah, it's gonna be a bass. Ooh, might be a pretty good bass. Not bad at all. That's the bonus out here when you're crappie fishing, you catch these. They're out here in the same type places on these channels. Well, he swallowed that thing too. I got a real light leader on there. Oh, I'll probably lift him in anyway. I've only got about a 6-pound test leader on here. I've got braided line on. It's a pretty nice little fish right there. And I've got about a else right here, so it's about a 3.5 foot leader probably. I like to start out with about 8 or 10 foot of leader, and as I retie, you kind of get down where you don't have quite as much. I hit my spot lock as soon as I caught him. I caught him right off the edge of this channel. I'm looking for crappie as I go down through this channel, hoping to find a wad of them some here in a minute. That bass. When you're fishing for crappie, and you just have one just kind of load up on it, and you don't feel that good solid thump of a crappie, it's generally a bass. Usually that bass just sucks it in, and you don't really feel anything other than heavy weight on there, and you set the hook, and it's a bass, and he's got that bait down pretty good usually. A crappie usually is a good solid thump. They thump it a lot harder than a bass most of the time. Another little bass, I think. It's a lot smaller than that last one. Oh, that's not a bass. Jimmy, hit your spot lock. That's what you're looking for out here in this channel. That's a nice crappie. You know, I talk about that distinct thump. There was no thump there. He was just there all of a sudden. Jimmy, hit your spot lock. Stop right here a minute. I saw a bunch of fish right there, and I mentioned them being a bunch of bluegill right there. Maybe there were a bunch of nice crappie like that. Yeah, buddy. Let's see if I can, I don't know exactly where I was. I think I was right back out there. A lucky skirted minnow. A lucky, not a minnow, a minnow. Lucky skirted minnow. Let's see how lucky you are, lucky skirted minnow. That's got some action, don't it? Look at that. What have we here? I bet that's gonna be a crappie. Spot lock, Jimmy, because that's gonna be a crappie. That's what we're looking for out here in this channel. That's what we're looking for out here in this channel. Yeah. You know, another thing, that line breaking them in to go like it did, is I caught several crappie that had it down in their throat, and that line's messed those teeth. The line got, scratched up real bad by the teeth of those crappie. So probably my 6 or 8 pound test line was probably 2 or 4 pound test line. That big bass on there, and he made a charge at it and broke it off. We're up on the edge right now, but throwing right out there in that channel. Little crappie there. They're right on the edge of that drop. Some of them are coming out of the grass. When I get up there, I've got 12 or 13 foot of water. It's a pretty steep drop, actually, down into that channel. And there's grass, and they're coming up out of that grass. Ooh, that's gonna be a crappie. That's gonna be a crappie right in that channel. Though it's not very deep, the channel just kind of narrows down right here. Those crappie are laying right in that channel, right in the deepest part. Oh, pretty nice crappie right there. Pretty nice crappie right there. This is a totally different type spot than where I caught those crappie earlier this morning. We've been working these channels and trying to find fish and catching a fish every now and then. Some little tiny crappie, and now we found a little spot that gets down a little bit. It's a kind of a narrow spot. It's a narrow channel in there. It's going over there on the other side. It's not very deep, and it's not very deep right here where the boat's only sitting in about 5 foot of water. But when you look at that locator, you can see how that channel drops down there. And that's where that fish was. And there should be several there. I've caught 2 or 3. I've got it on spot lock. There he is again. Pretty nice bass. Handle him a little gently. Not near as big as that one I had on a minute ago. Probably the same one. I have my bait in his mouth. I've only got a 6-pound test leader on there, which is pretty small. What type of line should you use when you're using an open face spinning reel anyway? Let me tell you the best thing in the world to use. Don't you break. Best thing in the world to use is braid. You want to use braid on spinning reels. That fish that broke my line a minute ago is about twice that size, but that size fish right there will break 6-pound test line. You don't have your drag, and I've got my drag tightened down. On open face spinning reel, what you want to use is you want to use braid, and use maybe 15 or 20-pound test braid. I've got 20-pound on here, and a lot of times I tie direct to the lure, and probably could, but here's what I do most of the time is I'll take some fluorocarbon or fluorocarbon coated line, and usually about 10-pound test, but this is a lot lighter than that. This is about 6. Usually about 10-pound test, and tie a leader on, tie that to the lure, because the water I'm fishing is pretty clear. If you're not fishing very clear water, you can just tie directly to your lure with your braid. Now you're using 20-pound test line. But now the other advantage in using braid on open face spinning reels like this, bail type spinning reels, is that you don't get those little loops and snarls in there. You see how smooth and nice that is? You take that and cast that out there. This is one of my Jimmy Houston camo rod. Take that, cast that out. See, there's no loops ever. When you snap it back, you don't ever get a loop in there. And so you don't have those snarls and problems that you normally have with spinning reels. Just get you some, this is High Seas Grand Slam braid is what it is, 20-pound test. And like I said, a lot of times I just tie direct. And I may do that because I'm getting kind of low on jigs. Just tie direct to the line. The water's real clear. You get a few more bites. You get a few more bites on fluorocarbon coated line, which is only about $10 a spool, or 100% fluorocarbon, which is, you know, 20, 30, 40 bucks a spool, $50 a spool, depending on what they want to charge you for it. Okay, guys and girls, that is summertime crappie fishing. I guarantee you can catch crappie doing what we're doing, find isolated cover. If you can find concrete, going to be some crappie on it. Going to be some crappie on it. If you can find a channel, a ditch, some place that you can go down that channel, you're going to find crappie along through there. You might find a place where you catch them every single cast like I did early this morning. Now that bite died down as the day went on, but this will work in the hot summertime just about anywhere where crappie are living. Guys and girls, have you a great one. Remember, I sure do love you.